Cabin Sports Radio.
Here comes the siren. I want to go higher. Oh, my goodness. Batista with a drive. Deep left field. No doubt about it. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Oh, baby, for sure.
Cabin Sports Radio starts now.
That's right, another episode of Cabin Sports Radio coming at you live from the Cabin Radio studio. And wait, what's Mike?
Yeah.
Are you getting this?
What's going on?
Cabin Sports Radio is just been canceled due to coronavirus.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. Have a good week.
All right, should we just let the intro play out? Or
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, I like that
All
new
right.
stinger. We're kind of a radio station. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah. Although that might be canceled too.
Yeah,
Who knows?
who knows?
Coronavirus is canceling everything.
It's pretty much the whole content of my news segment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all we're going to talk about today because it is ruining everything.
Yeah.
But let's get into it with your look back at the big headlines from last week with CSR News. Now, I don't care how bad this outbreak gets. You're not going to cancel this theme.
Yeah.
The greatest radio theme in the history of sports.
It's pretty good.
Take it away, Mike.
The 2020 Arctic Winter Games have been canceled due to ongoing concerns surrounding the coronavirus. Organizers of the event announced the decision on Saturday, little more than a week before the games were set to begin in Whitehorse, Yukon. The coronavirus, which has spread to over 100 countries, currently has no cure and no vaccine. The Arctic Winter Games are the latest sporting event to be affected by the global coronavirus outbreak. Other canceled or postponed events include the IIHF Women's Hockey World Championship, the Short Track Speed Skating World Championship in South Korea, and tennis tournament Indian Wells.
Now, I don't know if we necessarily anticipated this. We talked about the coronavirus outbreak last week a little bit and how teams and the sports world was navigating it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot has happened since then.
Yeah.
And like beyond just confirmed cases happening around the country. There was, as you may have seen, there's 7 confirmed cases in Alberta as of earlier today. There's nearly 40 in Ontario now.
Yeah.
British Columbia has had confirmed cases. Like it's making its way around Canada now and fairly quickly. But I don't know. Did you anticipate all this stuff? Like, I mean, we were talking about most specifically the Olympics last week because there's been very, very preliminary talks about how to navigate the Olympics should this situation continue and coronavirus continue to spread at the rate it is because, as we mentioned, you got a lot of people coming into one confined area. I mean, this is one thing with, something like the Arctic Winter Games or the IIHF Women's World Hockey Championship, any of these sporting events, you're going to have a large swell of people coming to an area that didn't previously have them. And when something like this is going on, there's going to be concerns. And obviously the Olympics is arguably the biggest of any of those types of events. You got to think the IOC is looking around now and being like, starting to sweat a little.
Definitely. And it was last night, I think, that Indian Wells announced that they would be postponing their tournament. You'll recall that was the championship that Bianca Andreescu won right before the U.S. Open. So a lot of people consider it, the 5th major in tennis. Yeah. So this is a major tournament as well. Now that we're seeing postponed or canceled altogether, we'll see. But yeah, we were talking about it last week with the Olympics. For me, it's a proximity thing, right? We're getting ready to host the games in Tokyo, where there are cases of the coronavirus there. Obviously, not too far removed from mainland China. So you would have to think that the IOC is sweating right now. We're 4 months removed. But yeah, Cabin had a good article from Ollie as soon as the news broke. The really unfortunate news on Saturday that the Arctic Winter Games, and like he alluded to, it did seem like it was kind of out of left field. There would have been internal discussions going on, but the word cancellation hadn't been previously dropped.
No,
and up
not
until
really, no.
The week prior, they were talking about taking all necessary precautions. Precautionary measures are in place, but no
doing
reference.
elbow bumps instead of handshakes.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot that was being kind of put in place to be like, all right, let's try and approach this as smart as we can, and hopefully not have to broach the possibility of canceling. And then. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was a ton of internal discussion. Obviously, this was not an easy decision to be made. Nobody wanted to cancel it. But at the end of the day, I guess I assume that the thought was there's no way to guarantee that someone wouldn't come out of this without possibly coming into contact with possibly someone else who had contracted coronavirus. And so at the end of the day, better safe than sorry.
Yep.
But it's unfortunate for sure, especially for, a lot of people who put a lot of work into the Arctic Winter Games every year, whether it's, coaches, athletes themselves, parents who are helping the kids get to all of the events and the tryouts and all that. Not to mention all the organizers, the town of Whitehorse has got to be, feeling pretty let down.
Yep.
Now, because obviously this was a big event that a lot of people were looking forward to, but mostly you got to feel bad for the kids, especially the ones that, this might have been their last chance.
Yeah. And, you could see the reaction on Sandy Silver's face, premier of Yukon, the chief public health officer as well. No one took this lightly. No one wins from this announcement. It's devastating. It sucks for absolutely everyone involved. AJ and I play basketball with Wells, who was quoted in Ollie's article. Yep. Devastated, right? Same with, I was playing volleyball with Matt Craig this weekend, who coaches a high-performance boys team. And it's the same thing. These kids spend probably 8 to 10 hours a week playing basketball, getting ready. That goes for all the other sports, too. All the parents, the volunteers, the coaches, the organizations, all the manpower and hours that are unaccounted for. And now this announcement that and like you said, this will be the last crack for a lot of these athletes. I don't know about you. Growing up, tournaments were what you live for. Even if they were local, even if you're not heading out of town, it's you're playing sports with your good friends for the whole weekend. But the ones where you travel are just much more fun.
Totally.
And this includes, some Nordic countries. You've got the other territories taking part, Northern Alberta.
Yeah.
Meeting people you've never met before, trading pins, and then trying to showcase yourself, right?
This ain't just some schmuck weekend tournament.
You want to go and win some Ulus.
That's right.
And I think there were some real high hopes for a lot of these teams, probably going in to the tournament with gold aspirations for a lot of these clubs. So, obviously your heart goes out to the kids. There was another high school trip that was canceled today as well due to concerns. They were supposed to go to Europe. So it's just terrible. And obviously, first and foremost, you think of the kids, and especially the ones who will never get another crack.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, and I guess, at the end of the day, it just comes down to not just a responsibility surrounding the kids themselves, because I think we all know enough about this virus to know that probably, unless there's some immunodeficiency kind of situation going on, probably any of these kids or youngish fit adults, if they came into contact with coronavirus, they would probably be okay.
Yep.
But then you're going back to potentially small communities with elders and people who may not be, exactly in, may not be, maybe a bit older, may not be in great health. You got to think that's what the concern lies around, them unknowingly bringing this virus back to those small communities, which it could do a ton of really devastating damage at. So it comes down to the responsibility to make the responsible and the correct decision. Obviously, like you said, nobody likes this. Nobody wins in a decision like this. But it just sucks.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. NWT delegates saying they made the right call. They stand by it because, like you said, there's the risk that it spreads. I think Canada reported its first coronavirus-related death today in British Columbia.
Yeah.
There are the demographics that are going to be more problem-prone. Obviously, the very old, the very young, those with autoimmune, immune issues. But there is that very real concern there. If it goes on, you risk something like that happening. The likelihood probably very, very low. But then in the event that anything does happen, you obviously don't want that.
I guess if there's anything good we can take out of this, it's that the NWT athletes don't have to wear uniforms that don't fit.
That's right. That's right. and I'll get a Captain Radio pin maybe when we're done this program
there we go.
as well.
We'll have some left over.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Let's shift gears to the NBA. We're not moving away from the coronavirus.
Nope.
The NBA could also take drastic measures to prevent the spread of the virus. Team owners and governors will meet on Wednesday to discuss reasonable steps the league can take to protect its players and spectators as fears escalate. One proposal shared in an internal memo last week suggested games being played in empty arenas, an idea that Lakers superstar LeBron James called impossible. The NBA is also planning to limit locker room access to players and essential team personnel only, while instructing teams to create a 6 to 8 foot distance between players and members of the media.
To which I can only imagine players are like, "Oh, thank God!"
Yeah,
like
totally.
This is all it took was a near international pandemic to keep the media like a reasonable distance away from us.
You remember in middle school when the teacher would go around with the ruler to make sure there was adequate distance between you and your dance partner?
Oh no, I don't remember. That.
I don't know if I did either, but that's always what people said,
the
right?
Stereotype.
Yeah.
I think that was a little before our generation.
Maybe.
No. Music was far too sexual in our day.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. But so there's going to be someone walking around with a 2 meter sticks, I guess.
That's right.
You got to create that 6 to 8 foot barrier. I think
it was Brooksy, back off.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I think it was it last week I was talking about unrelated CJ McCollum, Portland Trailblazers guard who's no longer signing autographs. And that was the first domino to fall, if you will.
Yeah.
And now, of course, the league has shared a memo saying, maybe that's actually not a bad idea.
Interesting with LeBron's reaction. I mean, obviously, he is and has been one of the biggest, if not the biggest star in the NBA for, arguably in pro sports for most of his career.
Athlete of the decade.
That's right. Yeah. So when he says anything, it holds a lot of water. But in a situation like this where, tensions are pretty high, fears have escalated, and it's pretty much dominated world news in general. And you have a protocol, like, again, the NBA just doing essentially what every other large organization is trying to do, is just do the responsible thing.
Yeah.
And analyze the situation and just come up with proactive measures to minimize any potential issue or spread. It's kind of what you have to do. In this, given the events, it would be irresponsible for them not to at least like prepare teams for a possibility, like the scenario, right? But then you got like LeBron James, who's just like, no, I won't play, and then that's like, well, we putting
us in a hard spot.
What do we do now?
You're easily the most popular athlete in the world, certainly in the National Basketball Association right now. You're putting us in a hard spot. But that. It is obviously a very real concern. Yeah. The Indian Wells tournament was supposed to take place in California, where they right near the facility where they actually played. They had the confirmed case recently, so that sort of spurred that decision. But obviously in these regions and in a huge metropolitan city like Los Angeles, there's going to be cases there. There's literally millions of people in the vicinity. So I mean, getting that many people in one place when there is a pandemic going around, you can see why there would be concern there.
Yeah.
But I think LeBron also needs to consider that, there's 20,000 people in the arena.
Yeah.
There are literally millions who are still going to watch.
Yeah.
So you can't really throw around this idea that I ain't playing.
Yeah.
If there's not, I get it. It would completely change the dynamic. It'd be weird, especially in a building that large, with absolutely no one in it. It would not feel like a real game. It would be very real, bizarre, and I get that. But there are still, millions of eyes watching you, so the game must go on. But we're seeing pretty much every major North American sport league now. They have to do something, right? Like, you have to be proactive.
Well, they have to be prepared. Yeah, exactly.
So MLB,
even if they don't, decide to act on those measures, There's just you got to be prepared for any scenario.
Yeah.
And that's, that comes down to essentially just corporate responsibility for a large organization that is essentially responsible for a large number of people and including the fans, quite frankly. Like, if something were to happen, I'm sure like the NBA or the NHL or, MLB is in spring training, none of them would want to, then be like, looked at and be like, you guys should have done something.
Yeah.
So, they got to protect their own. They got to protect themselves and the health of those who attend their games, because that will get turned on them if they're not taking these proactive measures. But it is, obviously LeBron's response, it's an emotional response. And I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to. I think a lot of people are feeling the same way. And even right here at home in Yellowknife with the response to the Arctic Winter Games canceled. Nobody likes it.
No.
A lot of people are upset, saying, perhaps is this not an overreaction? We talked about this last week. We were, just a week ago, we ourselves were wondering whether or not this was all a bit of an overreaction to what was going on. But you get to the point where, it's again, if it kills one more, two more, however many more people, again, it's a small percentage compared to the overall human population.
Right.
But that's also not the point. If it can be helped or it can be avoided in any way, you have to consider the ways in which that can, that you can do your part to be responsible. So I think we're all kind of feeling the same way that LeBron is right now. And like you say, it would be bizarre to play in an empty arena, to not have that crowd react. Do you even do music still?
Yeah, I know.
I don't really know. This changes the whole fan viewership experience in general. But at the same time, you look at the MLB. They play an afternoon game sometimes in front of empty stadiums all the time.
Yeah.
So it's it's been done before, but without a near pandemic.
That is a really interesting question. I'm just thinking from a pure entertainment standpoint, right? Like during basketball games, you got the background music, right?
Yeah.
You've got the horns and everything.
Yeah.
That would be a really eerie feeling.
Yeah.
To not have that fan experience. It'd be really bizarre.
You got no Drake on the court at Raptors games.
Yeah.
You got no Larry David at Knicks games.
Spike Lee won't be going regardless because he's had a falling out with the organization, who he called the laughing stock after getting booted a couple games ago. Yeah, no, it's very, very bizarre. Other leagues are taking notice too. MLB hoping. The plan right now is for Major League Baseball to start on time and with fans in the stadiums.
Yeah.
And the NHL has also circulated memos. I think really they're just trying to limit the fan-player interaction as much as possible.
Right. Which sucks on its own.
Yeah, it does.
It's already so limited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether it's, signing autographs or even I think what you will see is less availability for press to go into locker rooms before or after games. Like you said off the top, I'm sure the players absolutely love that.
Yeah, I'm sure no one's crying about that.
Yeah, all you need is a pandemic to kickstart everything. I'll wrap up by saying we are by no means telling you to run out to Costco or Walmart.
Oh, God, no.
And stock up on that TP. I'm sure you've seen the videos, and there's even one in northern Edmonton. It's pretty crazy. People really buying into it. At the end of the day, it is affecting a very small group of people right now, but it is a deadly virus.
Yeah.
And it's worth taking all of the necessary precautions. And it seems like most major sports leagues in North America are doing so. On that note, we'll switch to the NHL, and adding intrigue to the league's ever-changing playoff picture is the sudden rise of the Philadelphia Flyers. The team has won 9 in a row, moving all the way to a tie for first with Washington in the Metropolitan Division. The Flyers also boast an NHL best 25 home wins and sit fourth in goal differential at plus 38 with 14 games left.
The Flyers have looked solid all season long, pretty much right out of the gates. I was like, you know what? They're going to make the playoffs this year. Yeah, they'll have, any team could collapse at any given point, as the Buffalo Sabres have proved for the second season in a row after another hot start and then just completely falling off the cliff. But the Flyers, for a couple of years now, I've thought this is a team with way too much depth
Yeah.
Maybe not like that top end elite talent. You got guys like Claude Giroux and Jakub Voracek and a few other names that are like maybe like just one tier away from the elite player, and maybe that's just what they've been missing is just one or two of those guys. To put them over the top. But I've thought for several years now that this is just a team that is at the end of the day loaded with talent, loaded with depth, and a lot of young talent. And maybe that's been another part of it too, is the learning curve and the youth kind of learning the system and making it a routine thing. They seem like they're clicking now, though. And again, they're a team that I don't know that I would necessarily want to face.
No,
in the first. I don't think like Washington. I don't think Washington's afraid of anyone.
No.
I don't think Pittsburgh's necessarily afraid of anyone. Although if I was the Pittsburgh Penguins and just given my history with how the Philadelphia Flyers get under your skin, and particularly Sidney Crosby's skin, maybe they're a team that the Penguins don't want to face in the first round.
Yeah. The Battle of Pennsylvania in the early 2010s, and especially when you got to postseason play,
that was a lot of fun.
You could never write them off, and they were a team that always seemed to get under the Penguins' skin. But you talked about the depth. Kevin Hayes from your Winnipeg Jets as a rental last year. He signed as a free agent in the offseason. James Van Riemsdyk, who a lot of Leaf fans will be pretty fond of. So they have sort of got those fringe guys, those depth guys that they've worked into the rotation and paying dividends, getting good goaltending from Carter Hart. I would slide them in as probably one of those dark horse teams. For me, I think the East still goes through Boston as it did last year. They're very, very strong. Tampa has come on of late. They lost to Detroit last night.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not many teams do that this year.
I thought Detroit had quit for the rest of the year.
I thought so, yeah.
I thought they just took a knee for the last 10 games of the season.
Just mail it in, boys.
Oh, wow.
So they'll have the occasional sort of blip here and there. But tapered off a little bit of late, obviously missing Steven Stamkos, who they won't get back until the start of the playoffs. A pretty likely first-round matchup with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they'd have home ice advantage. So that for that reason, I would slide Philly in as one of those kind of dark horse teams. A wild card, I don't really see any of the wild card teams making too much noise right now.
Yeah.
Except maybe if Carolina got in. They had that nice run last year.
And really nice that this that whole gritty assault charge didn't become too big of a distraction for the team. They were able to, just work through that, just keep their heads down, keep playing hard, and put that behind them. And Gritty seems, he's okay. The charges have been dropped.
Yeah.
So they're firing on all cylinders now.
What do you do? He punched a child or something?
Supposedly body checked a child.
Wow.
Yes.
Hey, you don't do that, Gritty.
No.
But they've, as he said, charges dropped.
Again,
they've moved on as an organization.
The funniest thing about it was that no one ever mentioned an actual person, making you believe that Gritty is a being. He's not a mascot. That's not a costume.
Right.
That is a real thing.
Yeah. It was worked into the contract somehow.
Yeah.
You assume all the characteristics of Gritty.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But that's a sign of good leadership, They didn't let that rattle them. They put it behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would he have shown up to court in the costume? I'm just trying to picture.
I hope so.
Because that's the great thing about the States is you can have video cameras in courtrooms. Of course, you can't in Canada. That would be... If you were assigned that trial, that would be something else.
And now I'm just picturing the witness lineup with a bunch of different teams' mascots in there. Which one was the one that punched you? Oh, definitely that insane-looking one.
Actually, it would almost be better if it wasn't Canada because someone would have to actually sketch it because you can't take a picture. Just Gritty sitting on the bench defending himself. I did not punch that child. All right, we'll wrap up with basketball. Toronto Raptors guard Norm Powell has been named the NBA's Eastern Conference Player of the Week for the first time in his career. In a 3-game stretch, Powell led the Raptors to a perfect record, scoring a conference-best 31.3 points per game, which included a career-high 37 points against the Warriors.
Wow, what a game.
Who suck?
Well, fair, yeah.
There's a spat right now between Draymond and Charles Barkley.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. What's going on there?
Well, Charles and Shaq, they like to talk a lot. And one of his zingers against Draymond Green this year is that he's averaging a triple single. Draymond's going to go down. He's really, really undersized, 6'5" at the forward position. but will go down as one of the better defenders in NBA history just because of his sheer versatility. On any given night, he can fill up any particular stat line for you, but not so much this year, right?
But Charles ain't impressed.
Well, Steph only just came back. Actually, his first game back was against the Raptors.
Oh, yeah.
After 58 games, Klay Thompson missing the whole year with a torn ACL. Kevin Durant obviously left, and so did Iguodala. So it's been a tough year. It's been a really tough year for the Warriors, and Draymond has struggled. His production has gone down, and he's not even averaging 10 points a game. So I think that was when it was either Shaq or Charles said that he's averaging a triple single. It must have been Charles because Draymond returned by saying that he never won, which is true. He never won a ring, so he's not even in his stratosphere. So you can't come at me with that.
Oh,
but
wow.
But yeah.
I thought he was going to go with a golf swing chirp. Or something.
It is ugly.
Yeah. Oh.
That is a hack job.
That is the worst.
And I'm not a golfer.
I always kind of wondered if he was putting it on because it's just so bizarre that you just wonder how could you possibly think, how could that feel natural or right to you in any way?
It's an absolute hack job. There is nothing.
It's like a 4-part swing.
Yeah. There is absolutely nothing fluid about that movement whatsoever.
It's all in the hips.
It's all in the hips. Mike Trout can hit bombs. There's a video on Twitter of him.
Oh, I imagine.
Just crushing dingers.
Jeez.
But now that Powell is back into the rotation, a pretty lengthy absence due to injury, Nick Nurse has some decisions to make. I guess it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But everyone's coming back healthy now. Marcus Saul made his return.
Right.
You're just missing Fred VanVleet now from your regular rotation. Ibaka's back. Lowry's back. Siakam's healthy.
Do you think he really has like tough decisions to make though, or is it just like, I mean, you need that depth.
I guess it is a good problem, but I mean,
but is anyone hollering about getting more court time? I think everyone knows where they are in the pecking order.
Yeah,
in the Raptors.
I don't know. It's not an ego issue to me. I don't think it's more just getting the right guys in the right spot, given their production. And Norm has had a really great year.
Yeah.
So how do you like? I guess the question is he going to be a regular starter, or do you continue to bring him off the bench and roll out? I guess they would probably roll out with VanVleet when he's healthy, with Lowry, Siakam, Ibaka, and Gasol, I guess, if they want to go big. But maybe you just slot Norm in there and then move one of Ibaka and Gasol, have one of them come off the bench. So, yeah, it's a pretty good problem to have.
Yeah. Well, and he showed flashes of it last year throughout the playoffs, too. Like, he didn't, get a whole lot of playing time. But when he did, he didn't look out of place at all.
No.
And, it looked like a guy who had potentially more to give if they were able to find more court time for him.
Him and OG Anunoby have taken measurable strides this year after the departure of Kawhi. So like I said, it's a pretty good problem to have. And you've got about a 20-game stretch now to figure things out before playoffs.
All right. Well, that will do it for CSR News. A look back from the last week of events in the world of sports. And we will continue with Cabin Sports Radio. And we may talk about coronavirus.
I was going to say in the world of sports and public health.
You're listening to Cabin Sports Radio, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Cabin Sports Radio is always brought to you by Sport North. They are moving sport forward. Check out more about them at sportnorth.com. Obviously, that now not including updates from the Arctic Winter Games, which, if you didn't hear, on Saturday, the news broke that the Arctic Winter Games had officially and regrettably been canceled for this year. If you'd like to read more about that story, you can go to cabinradio.ca. But for now, we're going to talk about a sad incident, not so much an incident, but a sad news that broke out this past week when Henri Richard, the infamous pocket rocket of the Montreal Canadiens, passed away at the age of 84. Of course, I mean, as you may have guessed by the name, in case you didn't already know, the younger brother of arguably one of the greatest NHL players of all time, Maurice Richard, certainly one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, and without question, the greatest goal scorer of his era. The Pocket Rocket started his NHL career in 1955, played the entire thing with the Montreal Canadiens, and holds an all-time NHL record with 11 Stanley Cups.
And it'll never be broken.
It will never be broken. No question there.
I mean, there's more than 6 teams in the National Hockey League now.
There are, yep.
But no, that type of excellence doesn't come around very often. Nickname Pocket Rocket for his small stature, but
only 5'7".
Yeah, 160 pounds. But in the eyes of Montreal Canadian fans, a giant. And Gary Bettman referred to him as a giant of the game, and that he certainly was for his long tenure with the Habs, winning an NHL record 11 Stanley Cups. We won't see that again. So sad. I mean, we were on this show last year talking about Ted Lindsay, who, of course, pioneered the Players Union. But we're seeing a lot of these iconic, legendary players of the past with these really memorable franchises like the Red Wings, the Maple Leafs, the Canadiens. Obviously, Jean Béliveau himself passing away. I think it was back in 2014, 2015.
Yeah, something around there. Yeah.
So no, it's really sad for these giants of the game. They contribute so much. Obviously, a franchise like the Montreal Canadiens with their long-standing winning culture, and he was a huge part to play. That's half of their Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're at 24.
I mean, close.
Pretty much.
One off.
That's like he's like the Bill Russell, right, in the NBA with his I'm assuming a record 11 Larry O'Brien trophies. So
right.
You don't see that often. So it's sad when one of the game's greats like that moves on.
Speaking of that, you just mentioned the Larry O'Brien trophy. Not to break away from that, but I more disappointing news for you last week on last week's show.
Yeah,
I mentioned I surprised you by saying, Mike, the Larry O'Brien trophy, it's coming to Yellowknife, and you were like, no way. And then the next day, that was canceled.
Yep.
And then, now with the Arctic Winter Games are canceled. It's just this cancel culture, Mike.
Cancel culture, yeah. Yeah, you broke that to me on the air.
Yeah.
We didn't show prep that or anything. Somehow that went completely over my head.
Yeah, I mean, moot point because it's not coming anyway.
Canceled that too. This will be our last show. This will be our last show on Cabin Radio.
That's right.
Holly has canceled us.
But yes, Henri Richard. One thing I didn't know about the career of the Pocket Rocket, I thought he was captain of the Canadiens for much longer. He was only captain for 4 seasons.
Yeah.
After Jean Béliveau retired in 1971, Henri was named the captain, and then he retired in 1975. For some reason, I was under the impression that he was the captain for like half of his career, like a solid decade. And that I actually thought that was the NHL record he held, was number of Stanley Cups as a captain. But I might actually be thinking of Jean Béliveau when saying that, because I think Béliveau had like 10 cups as a captain, let alone
he did,
in his career, which is just insane. And like you say, that's never going to happen again. Nobody is ever going to win 11 Stanley Cups again.
So some other career accomplishments, 9 20-goal seasons, won the Bill Masterton Trophy for sportsmanship and perseverance in 1974, selected to 4 All-Star games. Number 16, officially retired back in 75, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 79. So a really, really storied career with arguably, but probably the most iconic franchise as far as the National Hockey League is concerned.
Without question. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's crazy to think, too, that, like you mentioned, very small player, as you may realize by the nickname, the Pocket Rocket.
Yeah.
5'7", 160 pounds, and this is in an era when you needed to be big.
Yeah.
You needed to kind of be able to take care of yourself on the ice because, Wayne Gretzky hadn't happened yet.
Right.
There was no player who they were just a goal scorer. I mean, there were, like, Maurice Richard was a goal scorer. Jean Béliveau, a goal scorer, but they also had some decent size to them. Nobody, if you were, the coach or any of the fans of the Montreal Canadiens back in the 40s and 50s, you didn't want to see Maurice Richard fighting anyone, but he was going to do it because he had a fiery temper. And he could take care of himself on the ice. And, same thing goes with Gordie Howe, Bobby Orr, like all these big name star players back in the day. They all had great skill, but they all had pretty good size too, and could take care of themselves. Ted Lindsay, like we mentioned earlier, one of the toughest players of all time, and still a multi-time All-Star.
Yeah,
it was just a different game.
Yeah,
back in the day, a very different era, and Henri Richard was one of the ones who was able to beat the odds, despite just being basically a little water bug.
Yeah.
On the ice.
So maybe out of his era a little bit, we see a lot more in the skill department now than maybe we ever have. Certainly in speed, it just feels like the game is so much faster now.
Yeah.
Paving the way for some of these smaller superstar type caliber players to break into the league. You think of the Panarins, the Marners, the Canes, not big guys, like not big stature guys.
Theo Fleury's.
Yeah. But Richard twice led the NHL in score in assists. 52 and 57, 58, 50 and 62, 63. So known for his tenacity, but also he was a playmaker. He got the other guys on his squad going. So and obviously worked out at the end of the day when you win an NHL Best 11 Stanley Cups.
Yep, not too bad. Great career. And a great person, as he always is. You hear it about a lot of different athletes in whatever sport it is, but one of those ones that always had time for the fans, always gave up any time he had to sign autographs, and really appreciated the opportunity he had in life to be inspiring for so many young, primarily French Canadian, and aspiring hockey players. So, rest in peace, Henri Richard. A great career. And an even greater person. We'll be back on Cabin Sports Radio.
The CSR Podcast.
If you're listening live on the Cabin Radio live stream at cabinradio.ca, or perhaps on the Cabin Radio app, you may have noticed that the songs we're playing in between segments are all by female artists. That is by design to celebrate International Women's Day, which was actually yesterday. But, of course, today's Monday, and that's more important than Sunday. So we're celebrating it today.
Yeah.
And if you're not listening to the Cabin Radio live stream live, perhaps you're listening to the Cabin Sports Radio podcast. Well, forget what I just said, but happy International Women's Day.
2 days ago, by the time you listen to this.
That's right. So back to your coronavirus news, because something has just broken within the last hour since we started this show. For immediate release, and we were talking earlier about how there was a memo circulated that media personnel would be kept within 6 to 8 feet, something like that, away from athletes. Well, that measuring stick has just gotten a little bit longer. For immediate release, Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, the National Basketball Association, and the National Hockey League today issued the following joint statement after consultation with infectious disease and public health experts, and given the issues that can be associated with close contact in pre- and post-game settings, all team locker rooms and clubhouses will be open only to players and essential employees of teams and team facilities until further notice. Media access will be maintained in designated locations outside of the locker room and clubhouse setting. These changes will be effective beginning with tomorrow's games, that being Tuesday games and practices. We will continue to closely monitor the situation and take any further steps necessary to maintain a safe and welcoming environment. So, again, the protocols just continuing to evolve as you know, more decisions, more consultation, more closed door meetings happen. Like we said, the top of the show, nobody likes it. It absolutely sucks. Aside from maybe the players who are happy to get in more than an arm's length away from any media members who they don't like.
Yeah,
but that is a small consolation based on just how much this coronavirus is affecting everything about the sporting world and beyond. It sucks.
It's tough, and looking on every single sports outlet right now, you're going to see the word coronavirus appear multiple times. Yeah. So every league taking direction essentially from the CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as we do with the school board. We take direction from public health. Absolutely. They're the experts. Yeah. They pretty much dictate what to do. So they would have been in close communication. But there are a lot of fan and player interactions on the court. Obviously, if you run into an incident where an athlete becomes infected, that changes the whole ball game completely. Right. Yep. We're used to at the end of basketball games now. One really popular thing, as I'm sure you've seen, is the jersey swap, which was always sort of a thing in soccer. Has made its way over here to basketball, which is pretty cool.
There was always a risk of staph infections, but you could deal with that. We know what that is.
Yeah. So now I'm sure there are a lot of things, that happen in the course of, you usually get a technical foul if you are really upset with a call and throw your headband into the stands.
That's disgusting.
Now, but people give away their shoes. Like, what is a child going to do with Giannis Antetokounmpo's size 20 Nikes?
They'll grow into them.
I guess so. But those are big shoes.
Yeah.
Literally. So there's going to be a lot of changes here now, right? So we're so used to these interactions between players and fans of throwing memorabilia into the stands for the kids, right? Like, are hockey players allowed to give pucks away now?
Well, thank God Matt Sundin's retired. No more sticks getting thrown into the crowd.
Yeah. Still remember that. So it's going to alter the experience of live sporting events really significantly because it's going to cut down on all the interactions.
Like we mentioned, possibly audiences themselves.
Yeah. That would really be a serious development if that were to happen. That would change the whole experience so much. And I think, we heard from probably the most iconic sports player of this generation, certainly right now, say that they wouldn't play. And I know there would be a lot of kickback, I think, from professional athletes. But everyone's taking the precautionary measures that we're being told to take right now by the leading authorities like the CDC to prevent the spread and protect each other. So we're gonna see more announcements coming, I think, and it's gonna change the way that we perceive our sports.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked more about that earlier in the show, but I think if LeBron, and I don't know, I assume he's thought about that quite a bit since making that statement. As we said, it's without doubt an emotional reaction, and we're all kind of feeling it. We're all kind of there with him. But I think if he has taken some more time to reflect on that statement, you got to think he's going to come to the conclusion eventually where it's like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's... You don't want to say you're not being a team player, quote unquote, by refusing to play, but this is a proactive measure which we gotta consider.
Yeah.
So when you have the most influential athlete in the world making statements like that, it doesn't make anything easier.
No,
but you got to think that he's had some time to think about that since, and I have to think is changing his tune a little bit.
I would think he's probably already sat down with his agent. There was that sports anchor a couple of years ago who, you'll probably recall this, told LeBron to shut up and dribble. You're a basketball player. You shouldn't be speaking about anything political, anything socioeconomical. That's not your realm. That's not your lane. Stay in basketball.
Right.
The reality is with superstar athletes, and LeBron's in a different stratosphere, he is the most iconic athlete on the face of the planet. And because of that, he has business interests. He's an entrepreneurial man. He has a massive, massive following, and it extends well beyond basketball. So he is going to attract the eyes and ears of everyone across the world in different backgrounds. So I think because of that, he has to be a little more guarded, a little more careful in what he says. But like you said,
which kind of makes it surprising that he did come out with.
But it was an emotional reaction, I think, and we've seen him do that from time to time, and then he'll kind of reflect a little bit. But we definitely, and we have even in this past year we've seen that. But I'm sure he'll be sitting down with his agent and clarifying or walking that back a little bit, because
what I meant by I won't play is I don't want to play. I'm not looking forward to this.
And I'm sure there's something
fair enough
in the CBA where be like, you can't sit out because people want to watch you play.
That's right. Yeah.
But then maybe he'd pull a Kawhi and use the load management excuse.
Yeah, his back hurts.
There you go.
Yeah, he's getting up there.
From carrying the team.
That's right.
He's had help.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really sure what more there is to say about it. The thing about, obviously, this is not a hasty decision.
No.
That's been made by any of these leagues, any of the general managers or owners of any of the teams. I'm sure they've talked about, I'm sure they're just exhausted from talking about it and what needs to be done and what should be considered. The other thing, too, is if one of the measures that is taken is playing in front of empty stadiums and arenas, you're going to have to be refunding a lot of season tickets, I would imagine.
Yeah.
You know, like that's something that I'm sure they've taken into consideration. And that's for a smaller market team that, you know, like a Florida Panthers or something like that, who I would imagine, I don't know what their season ticket numbers are like, but I know that their numbers in general are not strong.
No.
So I would almost think that they have like a small, you know, core group of fans who do buy season tickets, and they probably rely on that quite heavily.
Right.
I could be way off on this.
All those snowbirds coming down and Canadian hockey fans coming and watching games.
I'm sure they pick up, you know, a decent amount of fans through that. But I mean, that's only if the Winnipeg Jets or Toronto Maple Leafs or the Edmonton Oilers are in town. Like, you know, nobody's lining up to watch the Carolina Hurricanes take on the Florida Panthers.
No.
So
if that's on the tube, I'm not watching it.
Yeah, that's right. So this has got to be something that, I mean, money obviously is a major factor.
Yeah.
They're trying to run a business, and this is going to have a big effect on it, I would think.
Really interesting that this was a joint announcement, because up to this point, we had heard of the internal memos that were circulated to team owners and general managers, board members. And, you know, some of these had been leaked. So this isn't really, we had heard about this, I think sometime last week, that the NBA was considering the idea, the drastic measure of playing in front of empty arenas. Yeah. But we didn't hear that from the MLB or the NHL.
Not really, no.
But now that the four leagues have put out I guess the only exception being the NFL, but maybe they're hoping that by the time the new season kicks off, this has all gone away.
Yeah, I'm going to guess they're probably just kind of keeping quiet, going about their business and crossing their fingers.
Yeah. But it is kind of interesting. They've obviously reached an agreement between the four of them on these sets of measures.
Right.
But when one of them is already talking about and clearly communicated to its owners that, hey, it is a possibility that we will play games in empty arenas, makes you wonder if the other three leagues have signed off on this one measure, and this is another one floating around. We haven't heard that from the other leagues, but that could be something that comes to pass as well.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe the memo from the NBA just happened to slip out, and you know, again, like, we can only assume that this is being talked about at length from owners and GMs and you know, league officials. I assume it's been talked about for weeks and weeks, like ever since you know, news originally broke out of the coronavirus. It probably was. They were having preliminary talks around that time. Now it's obviously ramped up because it's spread all over North America.
Yeah.
So that changes the conversation and the urgency of the situation a little bit. But yeah, it is interesting, and I assume it's just kind of a solidarity thing where it's like, you know, we all have to be as responsible as we possibly can for this, and, you know, none of these leagues wants to be the one that is being potentially looked at as being reckless around the situation.
I'm guessing the MLB is sweating. We're approaching end of regular season for the NHL and the NBA, so the hope probably being, I mean, if it doesn't get that much worse, we can probably stretch it out for another 3 weeks too. For some teams, if you're not making the dance, you're done in a month, right?
Well, you just you know, restrict it to afternoon games, and again, you'll have mostly empty stadiums anyway.
But we got a 162 game MLB season coming up, and they pack twice the amount of fans in their stadiums, some of them. So they're you know, a month. What are we? Maybe a little more than a month away, a little less than a month away from the kickstart of another season. When they're packing even more people in, I bet you temperature's gone up a little bit.
You know what? The one thing in their favor with the whole Houston Astros cheating scandal,
there you go.
That's really taken a backseat, hasn't it?
It has. We'll bring it up next week.
The Cabin Sports Radio Podcast, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Just about to leave you here for another week of Cabin Sports Radio, but before we go, Mike, let's play a fun little game. First question, have you heard of the Carolina Thunderbirds?
No.
Second question, have you heard of the Columbus River Dragons?
No.
Third question, have you heard of the Federal Prospects Hockey League?
No.
Then you are a perfect player for a new game we like to call, Is It Hockey or Is It Totally Arctic Wrestling? We'll see you next week on Cabin Sports Radio.
Bouchard is going to walk across the stanchion. Andre Nitsch wants him. I'm not sure what precipitated this situation, but Jerome Bichard is through the cracks in the stanchion, and now he's going to climb over the glass. Oh, this could get ugly. Bichard exchanging words, and Ron Schwartz is going to give Columbus's coach the heave-ho, and I think he's going to send Andre Nitsch with him. Neither coach is going to step out on the ice first after their ejections. Bichard's going to bark, and Nitsch is too. Bichard's going to throw his jacket off, and so is Andre Nitsch. Now they've got a crowd of about 5 players from either team that have to stand in between them here. But Nick Wright's going to drop the gloves, and he's going to try to fight with Andre Nitsch. Nitsch will walk off. Wright's going to come around and say some more. Oh, I have never seen this in all my years of covering hockey. Now Wright's going to go at Mike Baker. We've got a brawl right at the Columbus bench. He's pulled Baker into the bench, and he's giving it to him. Nitsch is getting into it. And now we've got a goalie fight. Karpinski has Osaka fade out of the box. It's a melee. Everybody from the bench to the ice has a dance partner. Graham and Holt's on top of Graham. Chase Follis and Joe Cangelosi in a bear hug. Bichard's going to make his way off to the ice as Holt and Graham exchange punches at the red line. Andre Nitsch has completely thrown his dress shirt off in the process. And all the referees have skated away. They're going to let the players determine it. Here's Nitsch. Fist raised. He's gone. Jerome Bichard off the ice. Nick Wright will be escorted away. Applause from everyone. Andre Nitsch is the chant ringing through the rafters of the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds Annex. MJ Graham is still going after George Holt. Graham's going to throw another punch. They're going to go again.